Structure is actually what sets you free. It doesn't have to suffocate you, but you do need it there in order to grow a successful business. Otherwise, you're just a really highly paid employee in your business, or a solo. In the world that we live in the marketing like industry, I do think that having a vehicle like that does stand to kind of give you some authority in the space. If you don't even know what lead generation means, you have no business buying a course. Like, you just don't. Go learn that for free so that when you get the course, you know what to do with the information that's being presented to you.
Welcome back to the Seeking Success podcast, the number one virtual podcast in the world, powered by StockPick. Today, we have a very special guest on. We have Amber Morningstar, CEO of Drop Set Gorgeous. She's a successful leader known for turning struggling businesses into lucrative and titles. Amber has a really cool story. She has a really cool car collection, and she's worked with the likes of Brandon Carter. And shout out, she's also from Ontario, which is our home province. So, Amber, thanks for coming on today. Let's jump right into it. Let's get an intro on how you kind of went from like being in bodybuilding to now being in like the business space.
Well, first of all, of course, thank you so much for having me on the show. I actually didn't realize you guys were also from
Yeah,
Ontario, so shout out
Yeah,
to
we're from
LA.
Toronto.
Oh, okay, cool. I used to live in Liberty Village.
nice.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, so, but yeah, as far as kind of how I got started in the space, I did start off working out myself and just kind of doing fitness for my own personal passion. I then turned that into a business. So I was an online fitness coach for a while. I had a pretty large Instagram following at the time. I had about 20,000 followers. So I figured, why not try to monetize
Mm-hmm.
that as well as help other people get fit and live better, healthier lives. From there, I realized that fitness was more of a personal passion, not necessarily a business passion, and
Mm.
decided to transition into operational consulting, which is what I do now today in my business.
Right on, right on.
And so how long ago was this when you made that shift from like fitness into more business?
That would have been back in 2018.
Okay.
2018. Okay, so I guess do you consider yourself more of like an OG in this space? Because we've talked to a bunch of people who like go down the route of they start fitness first and then they become fitness coaches and then they become like just business. Like Umar, how many times have we seen this
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
exact
Exact.
framing?
Mm-hmm.
Like how did this all start for you? Like did you end up like did you ever get a 9 to 5? Did you just straight go into entrepreneurship? How did that work?
So originally I was working in retail. I actually used to manage the Guess accessory store in Square
Oh,
One.
dope.
So I'm sure you guys know
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
one. Yeah, so I was working as the store manager there. When I got tired of retail, I actually went into corporate sales. So I used to work for TELUS and
Okay.
I was managing some of their corporate projects. And
Mm.
then from there, that's when I started doing the online fitness coaching. So I definitely had, your more typical 9 to 5 type jobs throughout university and stuff like that. But I always knew that I wanted to build a business of my own and I wanted something that was completely mine. I just didn't know what I wanted that to be. And it took me, a few years to figure it out, but I'm super happy with the business that I've built today.
Yeah, right on, right on.
Nice.
Because yeah, it was so dope. Like when we were doing our research, we saw like how you started off as like bodybuilding and doing contests and stuff, right? What was that for you? Was working out something always a part of your life, or was it something that you started like later almost?
I would say working out's been a part of my life for a very long time. I wasn't the most athletic kid growing
Okay.
up. I think that was more just from being really shy,
Yes.
not necessarily from a lack
Mm.
of
Yes.
ability. But then once I went to
Okay.
university, I mean, everyone knows like that freshman 15 when you're partying a little too hard. And so I wanted to obviously get in better shape and get healthier. So I started going to the gym down the street from where I was living. And I quickly fell in love with the gym, and it's been a really big part of my life ever since. And a lot of the opportunities I've had in business for operations really stem back from my original involvement in the bodybuilding community.
Right on. Right on.
Mm. Okay, so actually, Amber, let me ask you this because Umar and I, we kind of disagree on this, but Umar and I, we always talk about do you need to be working out as a successful entrepreneur? And
Mm,
I think there are different reasons behind this. Like, for example, when people like read, so I used to read a book a week, right? And for me, after a certain point, it used to be not so much the knowledge I gained from reading, but more so the discipline of actually reading a book a week. And I think with working out too, like, again, in personal opinion, I personally think like there's like the saying like, do you want to have a 6 pack or do you want to have 6 cars? And I
mm,
think like, okay, yes, working out has its benefits, 100%. I'm not disagreeing with that, but do you really need to be working out to be successful in business? What do you think? Because you're a fitness person.
I honestly think that in some ways you do. Bandwidth is a real thing, right? So there are points in time where working out has definitely taken a back seat to my business because I only have so much bandwidth that I can really offer to do anything throughout any day. We all only have 24 hours in the
For
day,
sure.
and you can choose how you want to spend it, but you can't make more than 24
For
hours,
sure.
right?
Hmm.
So there have been times where I've been going really hard in the business, and as a result, maybe I've skipped the gym, a day or two that week, but I've always still maintained it as a very integral part of my life because I do believe that, like you said, success and habits are a real thing, and having that habit and that discipline to work out bleeds into the way that I, approach things in business. Also, too, I think being in the society that we live in and in the industry that I'm in, being healthy and being fit
Yeah,
obviously puts me in rooms with types of people that I want to be doing
for
business
sure.
with. Again, not to say that people that don't work out can't be successful, but it's just that in my industry, a lot of the entrepreneurs that I work with are, so it
Yeah.
helps me to align more with them if I'm also kind of living similar lifestyles to them as
Oh, for
well.
sure.
Hmm.
I want to also
I
add
like
to
that
that
answer.
as well.
Yeah.
Like me personally, I don't necessarily think that you have to work out to be successful because that'd be load because there are people who are like fat or whatever or not in shape and they make tons of money. But what I do think is like,
Exactly.
especially like in the entrepreneur space, because like now it doesn't matter what business you're in. If you're in this business space, you're usually on social media as well. So wouldn't you want to look and feel your best too? Like again, I'm
Exactly.
all for
Hmm.
body positivity and whatever. Like yeah, you do your thing. Awesome. But like the reality is like when no one's there and it's just you and in front of your mirror, butt naked, like are you happy with what you're seeing, right? And I've struggled with that for
Yeah.
years where like I've always been uncomfortable in my skin. And anytime I did get in shape, I got in it with like the worst possible by like starving myself and just I would look better but not feel as great. Now it's been like I've been on a very slow
Yeah.
approach. I'm like tracking everything, it's coming down, and I look and feel so much better. So it's almost like why wouldn't everybody want to have that edge, right? But also, just like you said, Amber, like there's been times in my life, like even more recently, where like my workload is so busy, where it's like the gym has to just go on the back burner because like it's like, okay, do I want to just look good or do I want to, actually feed my family, right? So I
Yeah.
100% agree. But yeah, to like what Reed's saying, I don't necessarily think you have to, but like it's definitely a plus, especially like if you're on social media, you have an online presence. Wouldn't you want to look your best? That's what I think.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, I agree. Actually, Amber, I have a bit of a controversial question. What do you think about this new wave of like the like I guess fat models, or I think that's offensive. The what
Plus
do they
size
call
models.
themselves? Plus
Plus
size
size, yeah.
models. What do you think about that? Like, I guess wave of society that we're approaching.
It's a great question. I think there's a difference between feeling comfortable in your skin
Mm-hmm.
and happy with how you look and ignoring the fact that being unhealthy is going to have very negative effects for you later on in life.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, I was a lot leaner when I competed. I'm definitely more curvy now. I don't think that I'm necessarily like a plus size model. I don't think you'd categorize me as that, but I've fallen in love with having like that more curvy
Yes.
look, and that's still healthy. But if I ever was to get to a place where it was beyond healthy, I wouldn't want to have that lens that society is offering to us that it's
Mm-hmm.
okay to be in that place, regardless
Hmm.
of health effects, because you should just always
Oh,
love
for
yourself.
sure.
I don't think anyone should hate themselves, but I think you should want better for yourself. I think you should want to be in a healthy place, but healthy looks different for
Yes.
everybody. And that doesn't mean that you're, 12% body fat ready to step on stage as like a bikini
Yeah, yeah,
competitor. It can look different for everyone. I'm not as lean as I was when I competed, but I'm healthy and I'm
yes.
happy. And that's what's most
Oh, for
important.
sure.
Okay, so actually, I want to ask a follow-up question. So, Amber, when you were actually like working out, you actually had to put in a lot of work, right? Like you had to make sure that you looked good, like you said. How do you feel about like these models realistically, from what it looks like, they aren't really doing anything other than just showing up, right? Or maybe they have the right connections. Maybe they somehow got to where they are, but like there's no level of effort to actually become a model. From again, unless I'm wrong, and like maybe these girls are doing something. Like I don't know, I don't know, but like. Can you talk to us about that? Like, how does that make you feel?
So you're talking more like high fashion models that are very, very thin, but not necessarily fit.
Not, no, not the thin ones. It's, I guess the opposite. Like, you
Okay.
guys know what I'm talking about, right? Like the girls that like, that they haven't been to the gym. Like they're more on the plus size, and like, you know what I mean? Like, isn't it kind of like a slap in the face to like the models who actually have to like work out and actually have to like take care of themselves? Like, I don't know.
I mean, I get what you're saying 100%. I do feel that like we do have different body types throughout like the world, and so
Yes.
it is nice that other girls can see a representation of what they currently look like.
Mm,
Again, my
Hmm.
main beef with the whole thing is like making it feel okay to be unhealthy,
yes.
right? And so
Mm.
I think by kind of making plus size models that are not healthy a spotlight because it feels, woke or inclusive. I think that's the wrong approach. I think it should be focused more on, hey, a model can be super skinny and not have any curves. They can have like really beautiful curves. They can even be on what fashion considers like a plus size end of the spectrum. But as long as
Hmm.
they're healthy, that's what's
Yes.
important. Because if you look at the flip side of that, the high fashion models that are walking down the runways that are extremely skinny, they're
They're
not
not
healthy
either.
either.
Yeah.
Yes.
I wasn't healthy when I stepped on stage to do bikini. Like that's
Yeah.
not a healthy body to be at. So I think
Mm.
that it's like my viewpoint speaks to both ends of that
Yes.
spectrum. Like the focus should be more on that middle average that's actually healthy, whether you're on the skinnier side or more on the
Uh,
plus side, as long as like you're healthy. But there should still be a representation of different
yes.
body types out there, because I know like when I see high fashion models walking down the runway, they look beautiful, but they're also not the body shape that I
Yes.
am, so it's hard to imagine how those clothes are going to look on me. And a lot
Right.
of the times they don't fit me the same way even either, because I am
Mm.
more curvy in
For sure.
comparison.
No, I really like
Mm.
you said that. It was very elegant because you're saying there should be an emphasis on health, but also representation on every level because that's so big. Like recently we've
Exactly.
seen with like the Little Mermaid, right? I don't know if you saw this, Radies, but they casted a black
Yep.
girl instead of a white Ariel, right? And
Yeah,
TikTok was
yeah.
having a whole party with it. Like there's a lot of
Wait, time out, time out. I just took in. We're with Ariel
yeah,
right now.
yeah.
I was just going to say
That's I swear to God, that's why it came to my mind too. I actually love that hair color. That's awesome. That's awesome. But like that was like we saw like TikTok going nuts over it because they had a black girl and like moms would play the trailer and then at the very end you see it's a black
yeah.
Ariel and the little girls are going nuts. Where it's like you forget sometimes, especially when you're growing up in like Canada or something, where like it's so diverse that you can almost forget you have a skin color, and then as you get older, you start to realize there's like different communities and whatnot, right? So for little kids to see
Yep.
some representation in a Disney movie, and that's to like a big project level, like it's amazing, right? So just like yeah, I guess there is a slight need for that, but at the same time, there's like it's too extreme because even I could say for myself, right? Like growing up watching like Bollywood movies and then watching some of these very famous bodybuilders, I always had a bit of body dysmorphia in a sense where like I've always wanted to look
Yeah.
like that, right? And then yes, I could work hard and get to that for sure, but there's also a massive genetic component, right? And then as a young,
Yep.
especially and plus like you're like in your preteens, like you're not going to be going to the gym and having a high protein diet. So that pressure, without sounding like a pussy, right? It's like it's intense, but at the same time, I feel like it's good too because I would rather have had that pressure than just like, oh, I'm okay with being fat as fuck, you know. So it's I guess it's a
Yeah,
balance.
yeah.
It's
Well, well, actually, Umar, to your
yeah,
point, and Amber as well, what do you guys think about this whole like thing where like we're kind of changing characters? Like, for example, I think they're trying to make James Bond a girl. They're trying to make Ariel, like you said, a black female, and I think also what was that one that kids movie that Buzz Lightyear, was it Buzz Lightyear that's like gay or
no,
something
there
or
was a
like some
small gay scene in the movie. The media blew
yeah
that up, fam.
like what do you guys think about like changing characters and like okay, this is what I thought was crazy. So in the UK, this is such an off-topic
We
tangent.
interrupt your program to tell you about the Seeking Success University, the one-stop shop to learn personal development, how to build your credit and get up to 6 figures in credit, and how to monetize your social media presence, all taught under one umbrella with exclusive bonuses and exclusive content. That will be linked in the description below. Definitely check it out. Let's see you in the uni.
But in the UK, apparently in the churches, they're teaching, they're kind of changing Christianity and talking about how Jesus was like, or like, it's okay to be gay or something like that. Like, what do you think about like changing characters to kind of make it okay in today's society? Like, I personally hate it, but what are you guys' opinions?
I mean, it depends again, right? Like, I think it would be silly to do a historical movie about Martin Luther King played by a white
Yes,
guy.
Yeah, like
It
you can't
wouldn't.
do
yes,
that.
Yeah. So I think like within reason, sure, if there's a character that you want to cast that is of different color, race, religion, whatever, go for it. But there's certain things where it doesn't make
yeah,
sense. And I think sometimes
Mhm.
society just keeps trying to fit a square peg through a round hole just for the
Mm,
sake of being able to say that they're being inclusive and
yes,
diverse, even when it doesn't make sense. Like again, my thing is always like the law of averages. A lot of times if you stick within that, it makes
yes,
sense. When you get to the extreme on either side,
yes.
it starts to really just not. And so I
100%.
think as long as they're being inclusive in a way that actually makes sense, like let's go for it. But if you again, if the situation of like if you're trying to cast a white guy to play Martin Luther King, it just doesn't make sense. Like
Yeah,
how,
100%.
so
100%. Okay.
Black Ariel, I have no issues with it. We grew up with her as a white girl, fine, whatever. But if it historically doesn't make sense, or you're revamping a whole entire religion to have a different viewpoint, I mean, I think religion is subjective to begin with, so I don't know if it's the best example. But like, you're trying to say like a war, like the War of 1812, never happened. Like, well, it's not
Yeah,
true. That doesn't make
for sure.
sense, right? So like, just do things that actually make sense and can be constituted either by facts or just logic. I think people lose logic a lot of the time in this effort to be
Yes,
inclusive, and you can still do that without just like completely going off the
for
rails.
sure. Okay, dude,
Hmm.
I'm gonna tell you something freaking crazy. I hope the guy doesn't get in trouble. I'm not gonna say his name. One of my friends works for Disney corporate, okay, and we're on call at midnight. So we noticed there's been a lot of like one gay stuff happening in Disney. And when I mean gay stuff, I mean like what's the right word? I guess bisexuality happening in Disney movies. A lot of representation of that. And we also notice at the
Yeah.
same time, it's so weird. Even though there's been a lot of representation, it hasn't been positive from like the media. Like everyone's saying, box
Mm-mm.
office numbers are low. People are not watching the movie. Countries
Yeah.
are saying we're not playing the movie. Teachers are saying we're not playing in school. There's been a
Hmm.
lot of backlash, yet they continue to push on this path. We've also noticed a lot of movies going from where they used to be, kind of like what you said about James Bond, used to be a male-led movie, and now it's a female-led movie. And there, again, that one's not as much of a backlash. I think some people actually appreciate that, but there is a community that has backlash towards that. So he asked me, he's like, "Do you know why they're doing this? If they're losing money doing it?" And I'm like, "No." Like, I'm like, that's actually a question I always had. He's like, I hope you don't get in trouble for saying. I hope I don't get in trouble for saying this. But the company that funds Disney the most, so like, and the next highest shareholder of Disney after the actual Walt Disney family is BlackRock. And BlackRock, the CEO and owner, is very, very liberal on like the bisexuality stuff, the transgender, LGBTQ plus, all of that. So they're pushing their agendas. And whether or not Disney hits quotas for their movies or they're hitting box office or not, Disney's getting the bag, which blew my mind.
Mm.
Like that's because I always wonder. I'm like, yo, if the public doesn't like it, you're pushing the agenda anyways. You're not getting paid for it. It's like, no, they're still
Hmm.
getting paid for it, just not from the consumer. They're getting paid from it from investors, which is,
Yeah.
man, you talk about money
Well,
controlling society. That's
the
nuts.
world can go broke, right?
Yeah. Well, and like the investor income is
Yeah,
guaranteed, the consumer income is not. So they're
had to please
obviously,
them.
from a business perspective, going to lean towards pleasing the investor because they know it's very easy to do. Investor wants X, we give them X, they give us
Yes,
Y. Whereas with
Mm.
consumer, you never know how the consumer is going to react till it's out, and by then it's too late.
yes,
So it's a
Mm.
guaranteed money grab for them to please an investor versus guessing if the consumer is actually going to like it or
yes,
not.
exactly.
Hmm. Also, guys, I'm gonna ask you guys for a favor. Remind me towards the end of the episode. I have something that I need to share with you guys because I want to talk about it towards the end. So, guys,
Do you want
remind
to
me,
write
okay?
down the
Because this
docs?
is actually I don't know if
Right,
you
right. Put a little note at the
actually, yeah,
top.
okay, yeah, we'll write down the doc. Yeah, yeah, because there's actually something very interesting.
Okay.
But let's actually move on from all this like
Conspiracy.
woke stuff and all this like yeah, like let's maybe not get canceled, okay? So Amber, what do you think? Like, how was it working with like all these big people? Because we saw you working with like Brandon Carter. Like, how is it like? How did you get into that network of people? Did that kind of just come into you, or did you kind of like reach out? How did that work?
So Brandon Carter in specific, I had been in a mentorship course to learn how to start my online fitness business, and I had made a lot of connections with different coaches from there. And one of them, Tanner Chidester, you guys may have heard of
Yeah, yeah.
him.
We
He
had
Oh
him
yeah, we had
actually,
on.
him on the
Yeah.
show. He was like our
oh,
second
perfect.
guest.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So he was friends with Brandon, and I actually did operations for him for a little
Okay.
bit. And so
nice.
he actually recommended me to Brandon because Brandon needed somebody for ops. He said, "Hey, I know this girl Amber. She's great. You should chat with her." So I definitely always have to, shout out Tanner for that because he made that
Right.
connection. And Brandon and I have worked together really ever since. He's definitely my longest standing client because we started working together in late 2018. We still
Oh
work
wow,
together today. We actually just got our 10 million award from
Oh,
ClickFunnels.
nice.
damn.
So it's
Congrats.
been really great to go down that road with him and build HTT with him.
Nice. No, that's so cool. Because yeah, when we were first talking about like we talked to so many of these fitness people. Like Tanner was, I think, the first one who we talked about who fitness, then fitness coach, now online
Yep.
coach. So it's like we've seen this time and time again. It's pretty interesting. And I guess why don't you talk to us about like the importance of like I guess not networking because that's kind of like everyone kind of says this now, but like what are like the best ways to network that like people don't
Wait, yeah,
really
hold on.
know?
Sorry to interrupt you, Radies. Before we move past that, real quick, I just
Yeah.
want to highlight. Sorry, I was opening the doc up over here. Um, it was interesting because when we found out you worked with Brandon Carter, it was because of the post you guys had together. And he said, my business
Yep.
tripled in revenue after I brought Amber onto the team, right? Could you actually, real quick,
Mhm.
before we jump into networking skills, can you talk about like what, like, I guess, I don't know how much you can share, but like what steps, or maybe more generally, do you take to take a business to the next level? Like maybe if not triple, just double it. Like what was some like
Mm.
smaller steps companies could take?
Yeah, so I mean, what I normally do when I first come into a business is I look at what reporting and accounting they're doing, and that's usually very minimal, if
Yeah.
any. And we create reporting around that because if you don't know your numbers, then you're basically just shooting blind,
Yes.
right? And so a lot
Mm.
of entrepreneurs, they don't track their numbers because they come from corporate world, 9 to 5, and they're like, I don't want the stress of like structure and like to be suffocated. I just want to do my own
Yes.
thing. And they start their own business and they have no structure. And what I try to teach them is like, structure is actually what sets you
Oh, for
free.
sure.
It doesn't have to suffocate you, but you do need it there in order to grow a successful
Oh, for
business.
sure.
Otherwise, you're just a really highly paid employee in your
Yes.
business or a
Mm.
solopreneur.
Yes.
So number one is just getting the numbers because once I see the numbers, then I can see where the weak points in the business are, and then we can double down on fixing those. Whether it's firing team members that aren't actually performing, which you can now see because you have the
Yes.
numbers, or
Mm.
it's systems that are broken, or just easy areas for improvement, like a no-show rate on sales calls. But we can identify those areas and really start to work on those. Once we've kind of like got that low-hanging fruit out of the way, my next step is just to say, okay, how do we optimize and systemize the business to take the entrepreneur out of doing all the day-to-day stuff they shouldn't be doing and
Mhm.
focus only on two things, which is coaching and creating content.
Yes.
That's all
Mm.
that the CEO should be doing in their business past 100 to 200K a month is just making content to bring in more leads and then coaching their students to the level that they feel comfortable.
Yes.
Some of my clients have coaches that do it for them and they
Mhm.
just do content, but those are the only two things that any business owner that's got a coaching business really should be doing.
Interesting. Yeah. Because
Mm. Okay.
that's
And
nuts. Because when I saw that post, I'm like, damn, like this is already a very big figure in the fitness space. And for him to say you came in and tripled his business, I'm like, what the like what was broken? And that's interesting because like that's actually so
yeah.
interesting because like thinking of how many like businesses and especially the solopreneurs like they have nothing like when it comes to like writing shit down and accounting and it's crazy. So that's crazy how like the little things that's the data you need to optimize, which is nuts.
100%.
Mm. Okay, yeah, no, I was gonna I was gonna ask a follow-up question to the business thing, but okay, just oh, actually, I was just gonna say, so you probably worked with like a bunch of people over the time, but more recently, what do you see working the best? Because we ask all of our like ClickFunnels related guests, like, what are you guys doing right now? High ticket, subscription model, low ticket, coaching, like what do you think? What package or what I guess offer is performing the best right now in today's market?
So you ask somebody, everyone's going to tell you a different
For sure.
answer. So my
Mm-hmm.
answer to that question always has been whatever your audience is going to buy is what you should sell. So you need to
Mm,
do that market research to figure it out. Do you have a low ticket clientele? Do you have a high ticket clientele? Does
Mm.
your clientele respond well to webinar style models, or do they respond better to, a mini webinar to a sales call and then you close them on that? There's so many ways to sell people things, ascension models with like a tripwire and opt-in that leads
Mm-hmm.
them into a high ticket offer. It
Mm-hmm.
depends, right? All of my major partnership clients that I have right now, they all sell in completely different ways and they all do extremely well. So I don't think
Mm.
that there's one sort of like golden nugget like funnel I could tell somebody that's going to work for them. It
Mm-hmm.
really just comes down to who is your audience, what style of communication are they most likely to follow, and then
Yeah.
create your offer and package around that
mm.
instead of saying, well, expert secret said I should do an opt into a trip. That's what I'm going to do. Meanwhile, your audience is like highly like dialed into you and would just buy high ticket from you right off the jump from like a mini webinar.
Yes.
So it
Mm.
really depends. I'd have to see the business to advise on what makes the most
Okay.
sense, but it's
Mm-hmm.
always unique to the client.
Okay, dope.
That's a very good answer because we've had like some people say at one point in time low ticket was better than high ticket, and but I think you said it very well where it really depends on the audience and I guess what sort of niche you're in. And actually, I don't know if you're able to share, but like how much does it actually cost to work with Amber in terms of a partnership?
That's a good question. So normally I take a percent of the business, not equity, just revenue
Okay.
share. And then there's
Okay.
obviously a cap of like a minimum retainer. So at bare minimum, I would want to be making 10K per month and then
Hmm.
have that percentage on top of that and grow from there. Right now, I'm not currently taking any partnership clients on because of how involved I get in those
Mm-hmm.
businesses, and I
Yeah.
insert my team of 20 into helping grow their business as well too. So I have to really align with the person, see the value in their product, and want to build a long-term partnership with them in order to really take them on.
Mm.
Like I said, Brandon's been with me since 2018. Brian Mark and Cole Da Silva from PT Domination. I've
Mm-hmm.
been with them for I think going on 3 years now. And then our most recent partnership client, John Whiting and Bulletproof Entrepreneur, we're going on 1 year together. But like
Oh
I
yeah.
focus highly on client retention. I don't do like turn and burn
Yes.
models. I don't have clients coming in and out every
For
month.
sure, for sure.
Mm.
Well, yeah, because especially in
Nice.
your business too, it's so much of like a rapport thing too. So why keep turning out new people when you could just work with like the same people you already work with and just kind of scale them? You'd make more money that way. With it's almost like the Louis Vuitton model, right? Like they could probably obviously sell less things at Walmart, but like they're
Yep.
making all that money because like the margins are just so high. So that's pretty cool. Okay, I want to
Yep.
circle back to Radies' question when you asked it earlier. What are some tips you give for people for networking? Because you obviously were in with Tanner, and you're obviously networking in the fitness space. What's some tips you give for people starting out for networking?
I think the biggest thing is make sure that your client fulfillment is on point because nobody's going to help you network with anyone else if your service sucks. And I think a
Mm.
lot of people focus way too much on the sales and marketing aspect, and their content's great, their sales process is
Yes,
airtight, their ads are awesome. Then you get in their program and it's kind of shitty.
yes,
If you like knock it out of the park on fulfillment, everyone's always going to say great things about
yes,
you, and they're going to want to introduce you to their friends and refer you to their peers because they'll have had a great experience. So from a client perspective, that's like a number one way,
yes.
and I think a way a lot of people miss. And then from like peer to peer, I think it really just comes down to being in the right rooms and adding value.
Hmm.
So I know a lot of stuff on operations. If I meet a new entrepreneur, my first thing that I like to do is, see what they're doing. How can I add value to their business, whether it's connecting them with someone else that offers a service that they need, or it's
Hmm.
giving them a little bit of advice on some operational stuff that I know. But in any interaction, my first thing is add value as much as possible, and then that'll pay you back in
Yeah, for sure.
dividends, whether they're
Mm.
referring someone to you or they end up working with you in the future.
Hmm.
And then you just expand your network from there.
Awesome, awesome.
Nice. Wow. I like I was like that's the thing. I like it when people have, I guess, unique and uncommon answers. And I think it's super cool because you've seen so many different businesses and work with so many different business people. So I feel like it's almost genius, right? Like when your clients are high performing people, you literally can get like the best out of everyone and then form like this like ultimate freaking whatever you want to call it, right? And I guess we want to ask you as well, like what are some of the most uncommon things that entrepreneurs should do but they don't?
Well, data tracking for sure. I mean,
Yes,
we kind of touched on that, but I bet you most people watching this podcast are like, yeah, like they know they need to, but they don't do
yes.
it. So data
For taxes,
tracking,
right?
1,000. Yeah. And I think referrals. So like for my business, I've never run Facebook ads for like my high ticket offer.
Nice.
I've never done like lead gen, anything. I've built my entire business literally off referrals.
Oh,
And that goes back to my point of like just being really great at what you do. All my
Mm.
partnership clients have high net worth friends that have their own businesses. And what they do is they go, hey, we're doing so great in business. And their friends go, how are you doing it? And then they say, Amber. And then my
Mm.
name just starts getting brought up in these conversations in different rooms. And I'll have people reach out and say, oh, so and so told me that you did operations for this guy 2 years ago. He was crushing it. And obviously I trust this guy, so I would, trust that you did well for him.
yes.
Let's get on a phone call. Let's chat. And so for me, it's really just been about that sort of model and just making sure that my fulfillment is fantastic and that word of mouth
Mhm.
has helped me build my business. And a lot of
Mhm.
people sleep
Yes.
on that again because they either don't do a good job of fulfillment or they don't do a good job of incentivizing those referrals. Like having a strong referral system in your business can help you 2x or
Oh, for
3x your
sure.
business in a way that you don't have to actually do any extra work to bring those leads
Yes.
in because they're coming in
Mm.
hot because they already like, know, and trust the person
Yes.
that brought them in. way more likely to close, and it's a cheaper cost of
Yes.
acquisition than it is to go and run Facebook ads or to run
Well,
TikTok
even
ads.
forget about marketing costs, but I feel like the bullshit level is so much lower too because if it's referred over, they're not gonna have
Yeah.
like the whole like, should I trust her or not, or like, oh, you're not delivering on results because like if Buddy said, yeah, it works, like why are you gonna question it, right? And if you're actually, and it sounds like you're someone who's really focused on delivering as well. That's pretty awesome as well. I actually wanted to ask you this, Amber, because that's actually very interesting. You said me and Rudy kind of go back and forth on this for years. He's like, yo, Umar, make a course, make a course, make a course. And I'm like, no, bro, it's not the right time. It's not the right time. And the reason for that is two things. One, I feel like sometimes courses come off as sleazy, right? Especially if you're not solving a solid enough issue, right? That's one thing. And two, I was always like,
Yeah.
am I gonna like? And I know this is probably just a self-limiting belief, but am I gonna burn the bridge? Like, am I gonna waste my opportunity too soon and like almost like ruin the ask for the future? So I want to ask you this: do you think it's better for people to wait until they feel like they're ready, they have the most value to add, or do you think it doesn't matter where they can test out a product on a smaller group and keep scaling with time?
I think as long as you're 5 steps ahead of the person you're selling the product to, it's a good time to start. You just have
Ooh,
to be able to keep that pace,
yes,
right? So, for example, like I don't try and pretend that I know how to do ops in a 10-figure business because I've never managed a 10-figure business yet,
Right.
mm,
right? So I wouldn't try and do ops for someone who's already got a 10-figure business because I don't even know how to solve the types of
yes,
problems that they're having. And I'm very transparent about
yes,
that. So,
Mm.
but if someone has a 6 or 7 figure business and they want to get to 8 or 9, I'm like, I got you. Like, I've done this
yes,
before. I have
Right.
confidence in my ability to do that. So, kind of like stay in your lane. Like, don't try to go and teach somebody something you don't know. As long as you're that 5 steps ahead and then you can continue to stay that 5 steps ahead, you can always help that person as they start to grow themselves as well,
that's
too.
an amazing response.
Mm.
Wow, that's a
Five steps.
great way to
Yeah,
look
I
at it.
actually I've never heard that before.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Damn.
because people wait way too long or they start way too early. Like there's again, it's the law of
Uh,
averages. The extremes always end poorly.
yes,
But if you start too early, you burn that bridge, you look scammy, you look like you don't know what you're doing. If you wait too
Mm.
long, it's just wasted opportunity. It's that like perfection paralysis kind of thing where you're just trying
Mm-hmm.
to find excuses not to
yes,
start. And you really just need to get that confidence, kick yourself in the ass and just make it
yes,
happen.
yes. Right on. Wow, that's
Wow.
fire. That was fire. Okay,
No, that's actually
so we
good.
talked about business, we talked about the woke stuff. Let's talk about something fun. I noticed it looks like you're a gearhead. You're really into cars. We've seen. I think at one point you had like the
Yeah.
Jaguar, or maybe you still have it, and then now you recently switched to the McLaren. If I'm not mistaken, your husband drives a Corvette. You guys have the Mercedes together. Talk about cars. Like, what got you into cars, and what are you collecting right now?
Good question. So I've always kind of been interested in cars, but admittedly, I didn't know that much about them until I got married. And my husband, his dad was a
Okay.
mechanic. He's always been into cars. So just being around him and my father-in-law a bunch, like I've learned all about
Yes.
cars, how they work, like engines, like
Yeah.
turbos,
Yeah.
all of
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, different models, etc. So I've definitely become more and more interested over the years, but definitely have the McLaren still
Yes.
right now. Might be trading it in this year for something else. We'll
Okay. Sweet.
see. But I did trade the Jag in when I got the
Okay.
McLaren, and then the Corvette that my husband has, he traded that in for his E63S.
Nice.
And then we share the GLB together.
Nice.
So I'll always have, my little fleet of cars, but I feel
Nice.
like I'll always have a fast sports car in that mix. I don't think I could ever jump
Oh,
out of
for
that.
sure, for sure. No, because when I saw that, I'm like, that's at first. I'm not gonna lie. I swear to God, I'm like, if I'm being honest with you, I'm like, this is a rental car for like marketing or whatever. And then I don't know where, but I saw like you had a page with like you and your husband or something, and then the car collection stuff. I'm like, oh snap, she actually owns these cars, and my mind was blown because like
Yeah.
that's a pretty expensive car, right? You have to obviously be numbered because like, that's another thing too. Like I know not everybody likes cars, but that's another thing too. Like you hear these people who are like they got the ClickFunnels awards, they claim they're making a lot of money, and then like they still drive a beater and whatnot, right? And then like when I see you, for
Yeah.
example, I know, it's just materialism, but I see you have the car. I'm like, okay, she's driving this car. She must be making a bag. Like no way she's just spending all her money on the car payment, and it's not just one car now. There's like three
Yeah.
cars, right? So like talk about that.
Yeah.
Like because obviously you know it's in space too. I'm sure you have friends that have even like freaking nicer cars, and then I'm sure you have friends that still drive the beaters.
Yeah.
Like, what's up with that?
So I think it really comes down to, at least for me, like I enjoy
Yes.
cars, so that's what I want to spend my money on. I'm sure like I could spend that car payment in different
Yeah.
ways, but I choose to spend it on the Mac because I love it.
Yeah.
Some people choose to spend their money on a car payment because they want that flashy
Yes.
persona. So I think there's different motivations for it. And then some people don't want that flashy aspect, so they drive a beater. Like they'll drive their Toyota Corolla because they're like, it gets me from point
Yes.
A to point B, and I don't really fair. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but in the world that we live in the marketing like industry, I do think that having a vehicle like that does stand to kind of give you some
Oh, for
authority in
sure.
the space. I
100%.
try not to like leverage it for
Yes.
that because I truly do love cars, but I know obviously, like you said, you saw that at first you thought it was rented. Once you realized it wasn't, automatically you now associate me
Oh,
with a
for
higher
sure.
level of
Oh, for sure.
success. So I
Yeah.
know that it does do that for me, but I personally am not doing it
Mm-hmm.
intentionally. I do it because I
Oh,
truly
for
love
sure.
cars. But I do have friends that I know for a fact they don't even know what
Oh,
engine's in
yeah,
their
yeah, for sure.
car, and they usually ask me for advice when they go to buy their
Yeah.
next car because they have no idea what to
Yeah,
look
yeah.
at. And for them, it's definitely more of like a
Oh, for
flashy
sure.
thing.
Well, that's another thing too. Interesting with sports cars is like that people don't know. Like if you, until you own a sports car, there's a lot of bullshit associated with it. Things break quicker. The batteries
Yeah,
die. So I don't know why. Like
yeah, more
on my
expensive.
Corvette, I don't know if this happens to your husband's Corvette, but like if I don't drive it for like 2 weeks, the battery's dead for sure. Like the batteries drain quicker. Obviously, the fuel is another thing. It's
Yeah,
like you have to be interested in that. Otherwise, you would not want to handle the bullshit, right? Versus I have a Civic, right, which is my daily driver. It's like the Civic has no problems. It can sit for fucking 2 months. I come back, turn on, it's good to go.
yeah.
You just got an oil change.
Wait, Umar, wait,
Yeah,
Fab,
yeah,
wait. So, Fab, you roast me for having a Tesla, but your battery dies every 2 weeks? Fuck
no. So
you.
it only dies if you don't drive it. Like if it just sits.
Bro, my battery doesn't die in 2 weeks if I don't drive it.
No, because fam, your
You're
car's
just
a
driving
beater,
20
bro.
minutes
I'm
after.
joking. No, it's a luxury car thing, bro. I've heard people in
I'm
Lambo saying
reminded.
the same thing when they don't drive. It's because it's a security system. I don't know what it is. There's something in the even the engine has to stay warm, so you use a lot of battery power. Ty Lopez,
The
yeah, he would
computer,
say it
yeah.
too. Like his Lamborghini, every same thing. His every 2 weeks, you gotta get boosted or you gotta charge it.
Okay,
Yeah, I like
Amber,
the computer and I just keep it
Oh, you
plugged
keep
in.
yours
So if
plugged
I know
in?
I'm not going to drive it for more
Okay,
than 2 weeks, I just keep it
fair
plugged
enough,
in. Yeah.
fair enough.
I have some quick questions for you because I'm sure the audience are curious. What's the monthly payment like on on a McLaren?
Ooh,
I mean, it depends on how much you put down,
For
but my monthly payment's 2,500.
2,500.
okay.
Okay, and what do you actually think about electric cars and the whole?
Oh my
Because I
God.
drive a Tesla, and you know what? No,
We're going to
not,
be friends after this.
no. Listen, I 100% like both types of cars. I don't care. Like I will have, I guess, normal cars.
Right.
That's what you guys want to call them. But what do you think about the whole electrification of cars? Like there are certain cars that aren't going to be made unless
I
they're
know.
electric from now on. Like what do you think about that?
It breaks my heart because I love the sound
Ooh,
of an actual engine. It just doesn't, I mean, the sound from an electric car is literally nothing. It
nothing.
sounds like
Okay, all right, guys. I'll be
slightly
back. Okay, I'm
going
gonna
through your,
go.
yeah. But I think the purpose behind it and like conserving the environment, like I get it, but I do feel like a lot of people are uneducated in making those purchase decisions because the amount of emissions that are produced from getting rid of
It's
an
the same
electric car
thing.
battery are actually
Yeah,
far worse.
it's
Yeah.
Exactly,
bullshit.
are far worse than a gas
Yeah.
car. Yeah. So
I think a lot of the people
I
who
hear you.
say, sorry, I was gonna say a lot of people who say they're buying a car for eco reasons are fucking lying. They don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah,
Let's be
exactly.
real. I didn't buy my Tesla to save the world. No, I bought it because it's fast, it's modern, it's cool. Like that. That's the only
Right.
reason.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah.
but that's that's interesting. We always debate about this. And I don't know, man. I think Teslas. I think they need some more respect. I think
No,
they're
they
cool
are dope.
cars. They're fast
They are
cars,
dope.
They're fast, yeah. Yeah,
and
on
I
a
guess.
drag strip, like it'll annihilate most cars for sure. It's got a very fast 0 to 60. But am I at the drag strip every day? No, I'm usually driving my car like around Tampa and I want to hear the
Yeah.
car and I
Mhm.
don't want it to sound like a
Oh,
vacuum
for
or like
sure.
nothing. So for me, I prefer,
Jesus, all these little these little
No,
digs.
but
yeah,
Damn.
to Amber's point, it's crazy because like I'll be in my apartment and I'll hear a car zoom by and I'll try to look out the window if I'm close to the window. Obviously, I'm not gonna run to it just to see,
exactly.
yo,
Yeah.
what is it? You know, I like it's.
Yep.
I don't know. It's really gonna suck when we do shift to all electric if that actually eventually happens. But it's cool.
Mhm.
I think Teslas are cool. I think Teslas are cool. But
And I guess to add to Amber's point too, with like the whole social proof, and Umar, you too. So myself and Umar, we don't publicly talk about how much money we make or how much we made. That like we had like one really good year, and it's almost like a game. Like we have people guess like, oh, how much you think we made? And we never tell them. But for me as well, it was like after I got my car because I got my Tesla at the age of 20, and nothing changed for me in terms of. I still knew the same things. I was still making the same amount of money. But now that I publicly posted the car, everyone's like, holy fuck, this guy's suddenly like God. Like, how do you have a car? And they just take you seriously. And even with my
Yeah.
parents, like my parents definitely, I mean, now, coming from like a brown household, they'll be like, Radies, you should go to school. I'm like, no. But it's like, they at least now understand that like I am, I guess, I have some sort of authority, or like I'm kind of doing something good. And
Yeah.
it's very true. Like, even if you don't think it's going to happen, and it's not just with cars, even like jewelry,
Yep.
although jewelry can be faked, designer clothes, like, yeah, like everything, it does matter. And people, I don't know, I think some people say that it doesn't matter, but it does matter. Everyone knows it matters. Everyone's judging people. So, I don't know. And I guess we also, or I guess Umar was about to steal your question. I think you
Go
should
for it.
ask
Go
it.
for it.
Go
Bro.
ahead.
It's okay.
Well, I was gonna say like, actually no, we'll skip this question.
Sure.
We'll ask it later. But Amber, if you had to start from zero, what would you do? Because like, it's a very different world now. What would you do if you had to start from zero?
If I had to start from zero, just knowing where I'm at now and what I'm into, I would probably just try to start a TikTok that was based around fashion because I'm very into fashion from like a personal point.
Oh,
So
really?
if I wanted to recreate a business that had more of a personal sort of like focus, it would definitely be something in fashion. And TikTok's definitely the fastest platform you can grow on
For sure.
organically. I know a lot of friends who make a lot of money from sponsorships that they get for putting
Oh,
products
for
on
sure.
TikTok. So
Nice.
that would be kind of
Oh,
my
for sure.
go-to.
So wait, when you say you'd be like a fashion TikToker, do you mean like you'd be doing like product hauls and like try-ons and like those type of TikToks?
Yeah, and I mean, like, I
Nice.
personally I love designer stuff. Again, I know, like you said, like everyone judges and like people do it for fashion reasons. I watch all the fashion shows. I stay up
Oh,
to date on
so
all the trends. Like I personally actually love fashion.
Nice.
So it'd be a way for me to kind of incorporate that personal passion into something that also makes me money.
Nice.
And just from shopping at, Louis Vuitton so much, I do get to do a lot of really cool stuff with them. So I
Yeah.
think that that would go viral really quickly. So I think that would
Mm.
help me to kind of grow my TikTok quite quickly.
Mm. Okay, wow. No, that's such a unique answer too. I
that
don't think we've ever heard anyone say I'm
That's
gonna
no,
become
you know
like,
what? Honestly, that's probably like the most modern answer you could answer. Because everyone says a similar thing, like, "Oh, I'd read a bunch of books and find a problem to solve and solve the problem." Like, bro, come on, man. Like, is that like? I'm sure it's gonna work, but is that really gonna work? Like,
Yeah.
versus what you're saying is like, this is so with like, because that used to work. That was like a thing like a couple years back. But
Yeah.
what you're saying is so relevant to now because like it's so funny. Like, even me and Radies, like we have like obviously the podcast, we have our personal accounts, and I have like a sub account, like a gaming niche. I put a couple hours in a week, and it's so weird. I like it's literally like it's just TikToks and like I'll get brand deals and stuff. It's so random and they're like it's amazing. It's like, oh dude, you're gonna pay me to review your video game that I would have played for free. I'll take it, you know. So no, I love that. I also noticed this too, Amber. Unless like I was just shit at doing research. If I'm not mistaken, your husband is like not that big on social media. He doesn't really post much. He doesn't tag himself in anywhere. So if that oh that's
Yep.
true. So what is that like having
Yeah.
you obviously being a full on social media persona and the husband
ooh,
being more anonymous? What's that like?
It's an interesting dynamic. When we first met, he definitely was more on Instagram. He actually used to be an athlete for
Oh,
Animal,
okay, yeah.
supplement
No
company.
animal.
Yeah, and he was really big into bodybuilding and stuff. And then he just decided that, for him, social media, he just wasn't really
Okay,
into it. And he felt better just like being
okay.
off of it. He doesn't really care for
mm,
it as much anymore. I think definitely some dynamics in our marriage have shifted in that way. I needed to learn to be more respectful of not always being on my
Yes.
phone. I'm still really
Hmm.
bad for that, but I try to
Yes.
work on it, but and he wants that, quality time together when we are spending time, and I understand that. But me, I'm like always plugged in because I'm always talking to
Yeah.
clients, talking to the team,
mm,
on
Yes.
social media. So learning those boundaries is important, and I do feel like he does help me to keep grounded and remember that there's a world outside of social
Yes.
media. And sometimes, you don't have to experience your life through a lens. You want to just be present in the
Yes,
moment.
yes. No, that's
mm,
big. It's like that was the first thing I thought because even me, like similar to you, like my wife is on social media, but just not as much. She runs like a clothing business, so it's not necessarily her personality on display, it's her product. Versus me,
Right.
it's my personality and I do multiple different things. So I'm like I'm from the moment I wake up till I sleep, I have to be on my phone. And it's not even for scrolling, it's just like posting content, replying to messages, just doing what I gotta do. So like that was so
mm.
interesting to see like because like
Yeah.
I you at such a high level and then your husband just being anonymous. Now, a follow up question. So, does your husband still work in like the fitness space, or has he just like went to a normal 9 to 5 job now because like he didn't like social media?
Oh, he actually
Okay,
works for
okay,
my
okay. That's
business.
pretty cool. Okay, that's
Ooh,
pretty cool. So
nice.
he's
Yeah. So, and that's also a whole other ball game of things to navigate. We're the
Mm,
type of people, we love spending more time with each other. So the fact that we get to work together actually is really
Yes.
awesome for us. Other couples probably would have ripped each
Yes.
other's heads off by now. And like we do have our
Yes.
disagreements. We never fight. We have disagreements about
mm.
work or personal stuff, but we do cherish the fact that we get to spend as much time together as we do. So it works
Yes.
for us, but I understand it doesn't
And
work
but
for
it's so
everybody.
interesting you said that because me and my wife were talking about this literally last night. She was like, Umar, we should start, what's it called? We should make a travel vlog page because we did this amount of travel and we're planning to do some travel this year. She's like, we should actually start doing a travel page together because she's like, I dropped her to school so like we can spend more time together, but like now you're so busy doing your own social media thing. And she's like, I can't necessarily plug myself into the universe you're in right now. But like, what if we start our own thing together? Because that's how me and my wife, since we got married, and even like low key since we started dating, I've always been like, it was just basically pretty much me and her. Like we do everything together. I don't really go out. I don't party. I don't go with the
Yep,
boys like that. If I do
same.
chill, like it'll be like obviously I gotta go see Radies or whatever. Like I'll chill with them for a bit, but I'm not a kind of guy who goes club. I like spending my time with my wife. We go for a hike, we go for dinner. Like that's just a vibe for me, right? So it is interesting to see how you and your husband are making it work. I don't necessarily think I could plug myself into her business just because like it'd just be too boring for me. But the travel thing would be pretty interesting.
Yeah, what are you trying to say about our
Or
business,
about
bro?
whose business? Tima's business?
I'm kidding.
But I don't know.
Actually, Amber, I want to circle back to it. Can I ask you a fashion related question?
Okay.
Sure.
Are you like how plugged in are you with the Toronto scene?
Not as much anymore.
When was the last time you were here?
July of last year.
Okay,
Before
that's
that, maybe
fine.
4 years ago.
Okay, that's fine. Here, I got a good one for you. What are three things Toronto guys need to stop wearing?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't been there in so long. I couldn't speak to that.
Ah, okay,
Uh,
okay. What about just guys in general? What are three things guys need to stop wearing?
um, I don't know. Apparently, crop tops are a thing now. I feel like that's kind of
Wait,
weird.
crop tops?
Yeah, for
I,
guys.
but I feel like that's a very bodybuilding niche thing though. Like
No, it's not. I was watching Perfect Match, and they were all wearing
really.
crop tops. And then I was shopping at Louis Vuitton yesterday, and my advisor was saying how crop tops are really fashionable right now. And I was like, yeah, I'm starting to see them all over the place. I didn't realize it was a thing for guys. It's new, so I mean, like, by all means, if you guys like it, go ahead. But
Wait,
like,
wait, no way,
That's
wait.
crazy.
That's
yeah,
okay. I didn't. Wait, so time out. You're saying that I'm actually mind blown right now. Wait, so this is like an actual like fashion because
it's an actual
you
thing. Yeah.
because okay, if I'm not mistaken, Amber, usually when companies are making clothing, they have to like kind of think about what's going to be trending in the future because of how quickly fashion moves, right? So is this something that the public we're going to start seeing in a couple months, or is this something that am I going to go outside in the summer and guys are going to be out there wearing crop tops?
Yes.
They better have a freaking shredded
I'm dead
six
ass
pack.
serious.
If I
Yeah.
see any beer bellies, someone's gonna. Bro, that's so dumb.
Yeah, apparently it's a trendy thing now, and I mean, we'll see how it plays out. Again, like I said, all the power to
Yeah,
people. I never like to tell people what to wear. I
No,
personally
Amber, you're no. That's the safe media trained answer.
crazy. Amber, what's some things you'd recommend for people when it comes to like books, courses, mentorships? At this point, networking groups.
Mm.
What are some things you give the pointers for someone starting out?
I would say, I mean, so when you look at the like slew of influencers and business mentors out there, a lot of them are saying the same thing. If you
Yes.
really listen, they're saying the same
Yes.
Oh,
thing in
for
different
sure.
ways, right? So find the person who aligns the most with
Mm,
you and go and learn from them. Don't learn from someone because everyone else is learning from them, but you're like, I
Mm.
don't really like trust this guy, or I don't really fuck with him, but like everyone else does, so like
yes.
let me go and follow what he says. Like find someone who resonates with you. Clients that buy Brandon Carter's high ticket trainer program are a totally different avatar from people who buy Brian Mark and Cole De Silva's Change Lives Academy program.
Mm.
But essentially, it's the same principle. It's teaching fitness coaches how to be
Yes.
online trainers. All
Mm.
the same foundations are really there. There are slight differences, but they cater to different types of people. So I would say, find the mentor that suits you and work with them, but still try to learn as much as you can for free before you go and look for a
Mm,
mentor, because that's going to help you determine what it is you're looking for out of a
yes.
mentor.
Mm.
Don't come in, I've worked out for 2 weeks and I want to be an online trainer. Let me just go buy the first course I can find. Like, actually do some research around other successful online trainers. Do some, like, YouTube
Yes.
University is a real thing.
Yes.
Like look up videos, learn about the industry, learn as much as you can, not to a point where like you're self-sabotaging and not moving the needle faster, but have some foundation coming into it. Because then when you get that information injection from a mentor, you're able to run with it a lot more quickly. If you don't even know what lead generation means, you have no business buying a course. Like
That's
you just
facts.
don't. Go
Yeah.
learn that for free so that when you get the course, you know what to do with the information that's being
Oh, for sure.
presented to you. That's like general advice. Um, as far as books are concerned, I always tell people the 10 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership is one of my favorite books. Radical Candor is another favorite book of mine. And then Who Not How is probably like the third book on my list. All of those books are around like how to manage teams, how to
Yes.
interact with people. But I do think there's some value you can take from that information to apply to like sales
Yes.
conversations,
Oh,
networking,
for
and
sure.
stuff.
For sure.
So we want to move on to the rapid fire round, Amber. But before we do that, do you have any other questions for us, or anything else you want to ask us, or anything else you want to talk about?
When you guys are looking for guests, what do you look for in a guest that makes you feel they're going to be a good candidate to be on the show?
Ooh, well, red hair is definitely a plus. But what we usually do is, so we like to work, or I guess work with like content creators, right? So whether they're in, like we've had comedians, we've had rappers, we've had Umar, we had like athletes, like business people. I'm trying to think, we
religious
had like the crazy,
leaders, like
religious
it,
leaders, like
pretty
TikTokers.
much anyone who has a decent social media presence has decent communication skills. Because there's been episodes we record that they just didn't get posted because the communication skills are so poor. It was painful.
Yeah,
I don't know how they're on social
holy shit.
media, but I think the main thing is like
Yeah, do you want to call that guest out?
no. Just having a social media presence, having an interesting story, and like I guess like you is so perfect, Amber, because like you have such an interesting story. There's a car, there's a bodybuilding, there's like the red hair. Like you're such a character, right? In like the nicest way possible. That's like so much cooler versus just like John down the street who has a
Yeah.
10 comma club award and like he knows only business and there's no substance, right? Because it's so interesting. In this conversation,
Correct,
we talked about movies, we talked about woke stuff, bodybuilding, we talked about business, we talked about literally like because fashion that was a big one because you know so many facets, and I feel like those are the episodes that are most interesting and get the most love because people actually end up watching all the way to the end. So I think personality is
Yeah,
so
and
big.
I guess another thing is we also don't want to just have on like the most interesting random person who like is just fucking broke and is a bum, right? Like also there has to be some level of like, okay,
Yeah.
you know what you're doing,
Yeah.
you know, like
Yeah.
you're not fucking poor, right? Like we also kind of we kind of have like a good mix of like, you know, people who are making money but also making content, or they're making more content but again they're not struggling, right? So they're above
Yeah.
the fucking poverty line.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of what we look for.
Cool. And who is your guys' favorite guest? Each of you. I'm sure it's different.
Ooh, wow,
You
that's
don't
a
have to
very
say
good
me.
question.
Okay.
It's I think. Well, I'm not gonna lie. Like this one was actually very fun. Like we found that with the female guests, a lot of the times when they're more chill and like, it's like I don't know. Like all the female guests are more chill. It's fun with a female guest for sure. I think my favorite guest, bro. Fuck, I don't. I'd say probably we had this one comedian on who's like a Tamil so like I'm Tamil, right? So it's like a Tamil comedian, and for me it was pretty cool because like all of my friends were like, oh shit, like no way you had him on. So shout out to Deluxe. I'd say he's probably like one of the favorite guests. It was just so fun to film.
That was crazy.
Nice.
Yeah. I think for me, definitely this one. No, no, I'm joking. If I'm being real, like there's two guests that come out like stick out in mind. One Imran, who's like someone I've been following since I was like 14. Like I literally paid for his course and whatnot. So when we had him on, that was pretty cool. And another one would be even Mike Rosehart, who's like I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. He's very known in the Ontario real estate investing space. He's like one of the youngest Canadian retirees. And when I got into my early investing, like when I bought my first rental property, I watched a lot of his content. So for it to be so even though he's not that famous, he really isn't that famous, but for it to go full circle where like we had him on the podcast, it was pretty cool. I think stuff like that's so cool.
Even bro, Dan Henry was cool as fuck. Too.
Yeah,
we
he
had
was
Dan
pretty
Henry
cool
on
too.
like what, last
Oh, yeah.
week or
Oh,
something. Like
that guy has.
he was so cool.
You talk about personality. That guy's personality, man. Holy, that guy's cool.
Amber, do you know Dan?
Not personally, but I know of him.
You know of him, yeah, bro. That
Yeah.
guy is
Legend.
so he's actually so fucking funny. We love that guy. And even who did we have on? Oh, we honestly, we have so many sick guests. Like we love our guests, and I think like, yeah, no, we love our guests, and I think it's
But even shout out to
it's
Tanner,
really
man,
lovely.
because like Tanner was like one of, if I'm not mistaken, he was our second or third episode, when we had literally 0 followers. Like literally, we didn't even start posting. We're just recording. The guy was so cool. He gives an hour and a half of his time. He did not care. Like it was like there was like
Yeah, yeah.
no ego. And then there's people who have like 10,000 followers who like leave us on scene. It's like if you're not interested, it's fine. But like drop the ego, man. Like
Nobody, bro.
crazy.
And I think Amber, like you probably relate to this too. Like if I was to ask you like who's your favorite client, I think it's more so like different. Like I have different favorites with different things. If that makes sense. Like there might have been a favorite episode to actually film, but then a favorite guest who like I off camera conversation had, or like there's different favorites if that makes sense as well. So like
there's different elements to the conversation. More value, like a guest that gave the most value versus a guest that was the funniest.
exactly.
So, I get that. But I think it's cool you guys brought up different people that aren't just from like my industry, because it's always nice to hear of like a comedian or an athlete that stuck out that can still provide value. And I think it makes your podcast more dynamic as well too.
Oh, for sure. And the really cool thing too, Amber, is like it's not like it's a Seeking Success podcast. We're trying to highlight like success, right? And it's insane how like you're fully immersed in the business world, but like we'll have a comedian who's literally just on TikTok, but the principles are still pretty much the same, which is it's crazy. Right? It gets you thinking where like hard work, consistency, dedication, the compound effect, all these things are real. You just have to stick to something, like go down that path, which is like super
agreed.
But no, I also want to say before like we jump into the rapid fire round, I want to like one, thank you for coming on, and two, just like highlight like how everything your responses are so elegant. Like it's like I feel like we're with Layla Hermosi or something, man. Like everything is just boom on point. So that's fire. We're definitely gonna start consuming more of your content as well. But are you filming content other than Instagram? Because we couldn't find a YouTube. Oh, we found a YouTube, but it was like 4 years old.
Don't watch that.
Are you filming content other than Instagram right now?
Right now, no, I'm actually not. And that's one of those things for me that's kind of taken a back seat in growing some of my clients' businesses. You'll notice I haven't posted as often. And I keep saying like, oh, I'm going to get back to it. I really do want to. I just don't have like a pointed game plan of like, oh, I'm going to start posting content again in like March or something. But it is something I know that I've been putting off and I need to start doing again.
For sure, because you definitely have that it factor where like you could say complex things but make it seem pretty similar. Like sorry, not similar, simple.
Yeah.
And you have a very elegant way of communication, which is it's nice to see because a lot of people, man, I think that's like the number one. Even personally, like I started reading some books on like communication stuff. I think it's so important as anybody, whether you're on social media or not. Like communication is like one of those human skills where it's so underlooked. Like people just think, oh, you either have it or you don't. But I believe it's a learned skill, and like we saw that.
I agree.
Yeah, you have very nice communication skills.
And another thing, Amber, is this is not even like bullshit either. Like there's certain guests who like I know for a fact if you were to do social media like on TikTok like properly with you have the red hair, you have the McLaren, you have like the network, there you would 100% blow up on social media like if you were to properly do it. Which I think you should. I think you probably will. So it's going to be cool to see as well. So I guess moving on, Amber, we're going to go into the rapid fire round. So we're going to have a little bit of fun now.
Yes.
So basically, we're going to say a word or a phrase, and you have to reply back with one word and the first word that comes to mind. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So the first word on the list is success.
Brandon Carter.
Ooh.
Failure.
First word that comes to mind, failure. I don't know. I'm drawing a blank on that.
Okay, that's fine.
Health.
Health?
Yeah.
Health?
Health, yeah.
Health. Macros.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh. Fitness.
Fitness. Brett Contreras.
Okay. Sales.
Okay.
Sales? High ticket sales.
Nice.
Nice. Marketing.
Marketing, ClickFunnels.
All right.
Okay.
Roadblocks.
Roadblocks. Growth.
Okay.
Okay. Teams.
Teams. New York Giants.
Okay.
Fire.
They've been my football team forever. So.
Right on.
Okay, nice.
All right. Money.
Money. Wealth.
Okay. Social media.
TikTok.
Fashion.
Hey.
Fashion, Louis Vuitton.
Nice.
Ooh. Yeah, we need to get the Louis V sponsor for Amber. Is Louis V your favorite brand, by the way?
I think I like different brands for different things. They're definitely the place I shop at the most. But again, going back to that whole fulfillment piece, like they just treat me differently than other brands because I shop with them as much as I do. And so I would rather continue to invest in having that experience than to diversify my spending across multiple brands.
Another thing I want to ask you, a more controversial question. Since you're big as a designer in fashion, what's up with your Balenciaga collection?
Ooh.
I don't know what's up with them. I've never been like the biggest fan.
Okay.
Their sock shoes, I will say, are like the most comfortable
Goated,
thing
yeah.
ever. Yeah, for sure.
sure.
They're ready to wear, not my biggest like thing.
Okay.
So when that whole issue came up, it wasn't, a big loss for me to say, hey, not going to support that anymore.
Okay.
I'm not going to burn what I have.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to actively, because me burning my shoes doesn't like
Doesn't do nothing.
stop people
Yeah.
from buying, it
For sure,
do anything. But I'm not going to actively go out and spend my money with them anymore.
You can do what Kyrie Irving did. Just get a sticker and cover the logo.
Yeah,
That's what he did with
exactly.
Nikes, right? Crazy. All right. Well,
Okay, so I guess wrapping things up, Amber, we ask all of our guests three more, I guess, like fun questions. And so the first one is, if you had to swap lives with someone for 24 hours, who would it be?
That's a good question. It would probably be, have you guys heard of Stradman?
Oh, like
It's
the
like
car
an-
guy? Yeah.
Yeah. I would
Yeah,
do,
the
yeah.
Starman, yeah.
okay, go.
Oh, shit.
I'd love to have a day with his car collection.
Oh, shit. Yeah.
Nice.
Okay.
Okay, that's fire. Okay, and the next one is the most motivating person of all time for you.
The most motivating, sorry?
Yeah, the most motivating.
Honestly, I'd probably go back to Brandon just because we've spent so much time working together
Yeah.
and I just admire his work ethic. And him and I are very much a similar type of person. So it's very easy for me to draw value and parallels
Yes.
from what he's done in his own businesses prior to working with me and also the business that we've grown working together.
Yes.
I've learned so much from him. Like I consider him in a way effectively a mentor to me as well too. So I would say he's definitely like a high source of motivation.
Nice. Right on.
Nice. Okay, cool. I had a feeling you were going to say that for that question.
Dude, big ups Brandon.
Okay, and the last...
I said big ups Brandon, man. Like he's so connected. Like it's not just in the fitness space, but even other entrepreneurs. Like he really has his hands in a lot of things, which is so dope.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He's
Yeah,
a
I
massive
know.
networker.
Yeah.
Yo, Umar, he's also super cool. Umar, you know Splashman, right?
Yeah.
Yep, I know him too.
Oh, you know Splash
Oh, you know
Man?
Splashman too?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Splash
Oh, yeah,
Man.
yeah, Splashman. He's also from Toronto.
Yep.
Last question, Amber. So this is the last question to wrap things up. Let's just say everything from the day you were born till now is written in a book. What would the title of the book be called?
Oh, I don't know. That's heavy. I don't know. I'm not good like that on the spot. I don't even know what I would call that.
You can take a couple of seconds to think about it if you want.
I'll go with Sky's the Limit because I love Biggie and it's tatted on my back.
Oh,
Yeah.
Biggie.
Yeah.
Nice.
Fire. No, that's crazy. Again, Amber, it was an amazing time having you on. With discussions we
thank you
had
so
on
much.
so many different
Likewise.
topics, it was like amazing. For everyone, we're gonna obviously put your links below. But did you want to make a specific plug?
Usually I just say my Instagram, so dropset.gorgeous. That's where you can find me, learn more about what I do, and connect with me if you guys ever have any questions about business. I'm always happy to help people.
All right.
There we go.
All right. Well, everyone's watching. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you do all the helpful things. Leave the review, like, comment, subscribe. Check out Amber's links. Stay seeking success.